Does the sound of Maxx Crosby's name in a San Francisco 49ers uniform genuinely make your blood pump faster? Does the mental image of Crosby and Nick Bosa obliterating quarterbacks together at Levi's Stadium feel like the missing piece of a championship puzzle that has tortured this fan base for years? Hold on to that adrenaline rush for exactly the next 12 minutes, because by the time our corporate scalpel finishes dissecting the financial catastrophe hiding underneath this fantasy, that excitement will be replaced by something infinitely more powerful: the cold, unshakable intelligence of someone who truly understands how the National Football League operates in the shadows behind the bright stadium lights. The maximum alert sirens are howling across the San Francisco Bay, and the tremor isn't coming from the San Andreas Fault. It's coming from the seismic shockwave of accounting insanity that American media is attempting to provoke inside the Santa Clara offices. When the season dust settles and the desperation for clicks reaches critical levels at the scouting combine, journalists simply decide to switch off their calculators, shred the hundreds of pages of the NFL collective bargaining agreement, and play franchise mode on a video game. Our intelligence center has intercepted one of the most bizarre scripts of this entire offseason, and our corporate scalpel is going to open the chest of this theory to expose exactly why the so-called dream trade is, in the coldest reality of the asphalt, an insurmountable accounting nightmare. The piece of science fiction sitting on our dissection table today attempts to sell the idea that General Manager John Lynch is going to fix the 2025 pass rush collapse by pulling the trigger on a trade for the monster Maxx Crosby. To justify this madness, the text uses quotes from Tim Kawakami, who has the audacity to predict that the deal wouldn't cost all that much, suggesting that the 49ers' 27th pick, plus some peripheral future selections, would be sufficient to convince the Las Vegas Raiders to surrender their franchise player. And to pay the bill, the article suggests that San Francisco sell backup quarterback Mac Jones for third or second round picks, lock down every single data terminal, and bring the salary cap rulebook to the center of operations. Let's begin by grinding the criminally irresponsible financial engineering proposed for the 49ers side of this equation into dust. We are not talking about a rebuilding team sitting on a vault full of cap space and draft capital. We are talking about a roster that has already committed the accounting atrocity of handing Nick Bosa the largest defensive contract in the history of the sport. As if that pressure weren't already cooking the pot to maximum temperature, the billion-dollar elephant standing in John Lynch's conference room is the imminent and obligatory Supermax extension for quarterback Brock Purdy, which is going to shatter the $55 million annual barrier and fundamentally transform every single financial decision this franchise makes for the next half-decade. Where, in the name of all fiscal sanity in American football, do you fit Maxx Crosby's gigantic contract into the suffocated ecosystem? Allocating $80 million of the salary cap exclusively in 2 edge rushers and a quarterback means the rest of the 53-man roster would have to be assembled from late-round rookies and veterans earning the absolute league minimum. The roster depth that is Kyle Shanahan's trademark, the ability to rotate fresh bodies, to withstand injuries at key positions, to maintain competitive intensity through a grueling 17-game regular season, and then a playoff run, would evaporate completely into the vacuum of financial impossibility. If a single critical gear breaks down, the entire system crumbles because there is simply no money available to pay competent backups. One injured starter becomes a season-ending catastrophe when your depth chart is constructed entirely from minimum wage placeholders. The financial architecture of a championship contender demands balance. It demands that every dollar cap space be deployed with surgical precision, that every contract represent genuine value relative to its cost, and that the team maintain enough flexibility to respond to the inevitable injuries and unexpected challenges that define an NFL season. What this article proposes is the exact opposite of this philosophy. It is a financial equivalent of spending your entire household budget on 2 luxury cars, and then wondering why you cannot afford groceries, utilities, or rent. And our audit needs to fly directly to the Nevada desert to expose the market valuation joke buried in this article. The text says the Raiders want a lot for him, but Kawakami believes there won't be a wild auction. What parallel market is this insider covering? Maxx Crosby is one of the most lethal, durable, and relentlessly devastating defenders of our generation. He is the beating heart inside that black and silver shield. He plays with a kind of motor and ferocity that cannot be coached or manufactured. It is simply who he is at his competitive core. If Las Vegas places him on the sales shelf, 31 general managers are going to jam the phone line simultaneously. The suggestion that the 27th pick, which in practical accounting terms carries the real market value of a second-round selection, given our perennial playoff positioning, would serve as the anchor of this trade, is a direct insult to the Raiders' executive intelligence. To pry a generational talent like Crosby away from his home franchise, locked under contractual control, the toll booth entry fee begins, non-negotiably, at 2 absolute unprotected first-round picks plus substantial young talent still operating under cheap rookie contracts. The article conveniently ignores the lethal dead money bomb that the Raiders will be forced to absorb instantaneously upon trading him, a financial nuclear detonation that would destroy their own salary cap, simply for the painful privilege of no longer having their best player on the field. The Raiders' own general manager is quoted in the very same article stating that they are in the business of collecting elite players, not donating them to conference rivals. That quote alone should have ended the entire conversation before it started. But the radioactive cherry on top of this delusional sundae, the supreme hallucination of this entire article, resides in the Mac Jones subplot. The text argues that Mac Jones, after covering a Purdy injury and posting a 5-win, 3-loss record, has suddenly transformed into prize lottery ticket of the trade market, capable of generating a third-round pick that might escalate to a second-rounder. Let's translate this directly into cold corporate reality without the emotional filter of optimism or nostalgia. Mac Jones is a quarterback who was summarily discarded and exiled by the New England Patriots because his mental processing speed and arm strength collapsed under sustained competitive pressure at the highest level. He was replaced, benched, and ultimately released by a franchise that has a legendary history of maximizing quarterback talent, playing 8 reasonable games protected by the most tactically foolproof offensive scheme in the modern game, Kyle Shanahan's outside zone system, surrounded by elite playmakers at every skill position, generating manufactured completions through the inherent intelligence of the scheme rather than through individual brilliance, does not erase years of documented professional struggles. Every NFL front office has access to the same film, the same analytics, and the same performance history that any reasonable evaluation would reveal. No NFL front office is naive enough to surrender premium draft capital, specifically a second-round pick that could be used to recruit a cost-control starting offensive lineman for 4 years of productive service in exchange for a veteran stopgap like Mac Jones. The fundamental mathematics of this equation collapse upon basic scrutiny. A second-round pick represents 4 years of minimum cost reduction from a player who might develop into a franchise cornerstone. Mac Jones represents 1, possibly 2 years of system-dependent, ceiling limited quarterback play at a salary that exceeds what his market value should realistically command. Using the illusory sale of Mac Jones as a financing engine to fund a Maxx Crosby acquisition is the equivalent of trying to purchase a luxury mansion by offering scratch lottery tickets as your down payment. The seller is going to laugh, close the door, and never return your calls. The entire financial premise of this article disintegrates under even the most casual examination of market realities and salary cap mathematics. The NFL salary cap does not magically expand to accommodate the fanfiction and tactical wishes of bored off-season writers operating without financial constraints. The management of a championship franchise demands cold sacrifices, disciplined peripheral construction, and continuous roster building through intelligent and economical recruiting, not the impossible union of the most expensive contracts in the league concentrated in the same defensive front. The system does not bend to emotional narratives. The mathematics do not negotiate with dramatic storytelling. The fiscal limits are the executioner of everyone who attempts to deceive the numbers with fantasy economics. The San Francisco 49ers under John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan have built their sustained success on precisely the opposite philosophy of everything this article proposes. They find value where others see none. They build through the draft. They identify overlooked veterans. They maximize the Shanahan system to elevate players beyond their individual market value. They construct depth rather than concentrating resources. They plan 5 years ahead rather than mortgaging the future for one spectacular headline. That is a culture of Santa Clara, and no amount of off-season media pressure is going to transform John Lynch into the reckless spender this article desperately wants him to be. Our analytical shield against market fraud has no off switch and no sleep mode. Detonate your thumb on that like button to force this platform to deliver precision journalism to every Niner fan who deserves better than financially illiterate trade proposals. Protect your own intelligence by subscribing to our Tactical Strike Force and leave your lethal verdict in the comments below. Has the entire league already seen to the Mac Jones illusion, or is some desperate general manager actually going to fall into that trap? The operations room remains fully alert, scanning every maneuver in the shadows of the oval ball. Mission accomplished, until the next corporate scrutiny hits our desk.